I'll never forget the moment he walked in like he already owned the company, Maxwell Granger Max. As he insisted strode into Nexera Systems, Seattle headquarters with that specific kind of confidence that isn't earned, just performed. Expensive suit, perfect posture, Rolex catching the fluorescent light like it was auditioning for attention. I watched from my desk in the open plan floor, coffee going cold between my hands. 7 years at Nexera. 7 years of building systems that kept the entire company from collapsing more than once. I'd seen ego before. I'd survived 3 CEOs, 2 restructurings, and a near acquisition that should have killed us. But Max felt different, not smarter, not sharper, just louder. And people like that don't usually ask who built the floor they're standing on. They assume it appeared. My name is Penelope Harper, 32, Director of Systems, Architecture. Or I was, more importantly. I was the person who built Nexera's back-end infrastructure, the one that quietly powered 82% of everything the company did. AP is scheduling systems, client platforms, internal routing logic, not just code. A patented architecture filed under my name, protected by contract, quietly reinforced over years of updates no one else fully understood, including Max, especially Max, that first Monday. He stood in the conference room like a keynote speaker who had mistaken the company for a stage. "Call me Max," he said. Smiling like disruption was a personality trait. "We're going to streamline everything. Move fast, be lean. Think big." People clapped that week. Automatic corporate applause that means no one wants to be first to stop. I didn't clap, I just watched because I recognized something immediately. Not competence, pattern blindness. Within a week, he replaced structured engineering reviews with vision sessions. He fired 3 managers by email. He praised ideas I had already designed months earlier, presenting them like spontaneous genius. And every time I spoke in meetings, he either cut me off or translated my work into simpler language for other people to understand. Classic move. If you can't outperform someone, you overrate them socially. By the second week, he stopped using my title, tech lead. He called me once, like it was a downgrade he could assign verbally. I corrected nothing, not because I agreed, because I was watching, documenting, waiting. On Friday morning, he came to my office. He leaned on the doorframe like he was doing me a favor by existing near me. "Penelope," he said, "we're restructuring. Your role is redundant. Redundant. That word again. Always used by people who don't understand what systems actually do until they stop working." "I understand," I said. He blinked. That wasn't the reaction he wanted. No outrage. No pleading. No scene. Just acceptance. It unsettled him more than resistance would have. "HR will send details," he added quickly, as if speed could restore authority. "We'll need your badge by end of day." "Of course," I said. Then I stood up, collected my things, and left. He didn't know it yet, but he had just fired the only person keeping the company alive. That night, I didn't spiral. I planned, because anger is emotional noise. Leverage is structural. And I already knew exactly what structure they had ignored. My patent, US 9347901. B. The backend architecture Nexera depended on too. Function licensed to them under strict terms Max had never read, especially the expiration clause, which was about to hit midnight Saturday. I confirmed everything, every clause, every timestamp, every dependency tied to my system. 82% of Nexera's operations, not metaphorically, literally. Then I wrote the email. No drama. No threats. Just documentation. Subject: notice of intellectual property license expiration. Immediate action required. I sent it to legal, the board, and Max. Then I went for a run through Seattle's fog like nothing had happened, because technically, nothing had yet. Sunday night, the first calls came. HR, legal, it. Then panic. Then silence. Then outages. By Monday morning, Nexera Systems was partially blind. Dashboards failed. Client portals stalled. Internal APIs began timing out in cascading failure. Not because I broke anything, because the permission to use it expired. That's the part people always misunderstand. You don't need to destroy something to stop it. You just need to remove consent. Max called me at 7:14 a.m. He used the wrong name, Emma. We need to fix this. I almost laughed out by 8:30. I walked into Nexura's headquarters. Not through the employee entrance, through the front doors. Slow, visible, unavoidable. Legal met me in a glass conference room. They tried amicable resolution first. Then retroactive extension. Then silence when I gave them my number. 12 million per quarter, plus acknowledgement of my patent. Plus full operational control during transition. Not because I was emotional, because I was accurate. Every hour of downtime had a price. They were just finally seeing it. Max found me in the hallway. He looked smaller than he had a week ago. That's what fear does to people who confuse authority with position. This is unnecessary, he said. No, I replied. It's just new information for you. He tried blame. He tried spin. He tried control. None of it worked because control requires dependency. And I had just proved where dependency actually lived. By Tuesday, the board stepped in. That's when everything shifted. Not because they suddenly cared about fairness, because they suddenly understood exposure, legal exposure, financial exposure, structural exposure. My system wasn't just code. It was infrastructure level dependency tied to revenue, and I was the gate. Wednesday, I stood in the boardroom. Not as an employee. As a constraint. They could no longer ignore. Max was there too, but not speaking much anymore. That part had already changed. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. I built the system you rely on, I said. And I followed the contract you ignored. Double quote silence. Then board members started asking better questions. That's usually how power shifts quietly. When the right people stop accepting bad assumptions. By the end of the meeting, the outcome was simple. Max suspended pending review. My patent formally acknowledged, contract renegotiated, and Nexura forced to finally treat infrastructure as something more than invisible labor. But the real change wasn't the deal. It was what came after. A new policy framework, mandatory IP recognition, system ownership audits during leadership transitions, mentorship channels for engineers whose work was being quietly absorbed. Not perfect, but structural. A week later, an intern stopped me in the hallway. You're why I spoke up in a review, she said. I just said what was true, I replied. She smiled like that was rare. It is. That evening, I stood outside Nexura as the sun dropped behind Seattle skyline. No celebration. No victory speech. Just quiet clarity. Because revenge is loud, but systems are permanent. And for the first time, Nexura wasn't running on ego. It was running on recognition. And I wasn't invisible anymore. I was the architecture they finally learned to see.